Let's see. Am I live yet? Looks like I am. Oh, there's me. Turn off my own volume. All right. Want to be able to see the chat. Can I see the chat? Yeah. There we go. Just on the odd opportunity, someone shows up. All right. Here we are. Hey, y'all. I'm Lewis at Money Positive. We do unscary financial planning for everyone. I'm going to minimize myself and I'll come back and look at the chat in a second, see if anyone comes in. But otherwise, coming live to talk about Silicon Valley Bank, banking in general, and just how I'm feeling about it. I don't usually do like such topic based, like time sensitive things. I just feel like there's so many people weighing in on this subject that I don't feel compelled to weigh in on everything and give my hot take on every important topic of the day. But I've been asked a few times about this one, and so I want to weigh in with some thoughts about what's going on with some banks and share a little bit about how we choose banks in general, the like banks that we suggest people work with. First, I'll say don't panic. Second, I'll say this is not constitute financial advice. Even if I am your planner and you're watching this, talk to me before you make any changes to your banking. Like, it is such a personal experience that I would want to look. I would want to have a discussion before you change anything about your banking. If you are feeling uncomfortable and need to move banks in order to feel comfortable, I care more about you than I care about the individual banks. But I would just say, like, take a deep breath. Don't panic. There's nothing that I'm seeing that is causing me too much concern. So the Friday that Silicon Valley Bank failed, I actually started hearing about it a little bit before it was on the news because I was getting emails from people that was like, hey, I my payroll is not running, or I can't, like, all of a sudden this application that I was doing isn't working. And at first I was like, oh, there must be like a glitch with one of the payroll companies or something in the like back end of the financial network. I didn't, and then shortly after that saw the news about what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, and also Signature and stuff that's going on at First Republic. And I'd say that largely those specific issues are mostly resolved at this point. Here now, a little over a week later, the FDIC stepped in and is guaranteeing all the deposits, which I think is wonderful. Like, banking in America should be boring for people who have deposits. So the fact that they're saying your deposits are safe, I think is a very good thing. And without getting too much into it, probably won't cost the taxpayer anything. And yeah, I don't usually weigh in on macroeconomic stuff like the banking sector, because mostly what we do at Money Positive is around people's budgets and, like, can you afford this synthesizer or to quit your job or to have a baby? Not, what is happening in bond rates and how is that affecting the macroeconomic banking system. So what happened, and the reasons I'm not worrying so much about it, what happened at Signature, SVB, and First Republic seem very regional and sector specific. So all banks are required to maintain a certain amount of ratio of like liquid cash and cash equivalents on hand and the amount of liabilities, like loans they're giving out. That is the point of banks: is to take take deposits and give them back out as loans. Like, we need banks taking risks. That's how we get car loans and mortgages and business loans and stuff. So we don't want banking to get too boring. But we also don't want banks to take huge risks with our money and end up losing our money. So what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, my understanding, again, not this is not my area of expertise, but they had a lot of their balance sheet in government bonds that had a very low interest rate, because up until recently, up until like the last year or so, interest rates were incredibly low, and that was the best thing they could find at the time. And then due to conditions on their books and in other things that they were had their money parked in, some folks in Silicon Valley lost confidence and told their friends and colleagues, like, hey, get your money out of Silicon Valley Bank. I don't know if it's gonna, like, if this place is viable. And I don't know whether it was or not, but also it's rare that a bank can have a run, which is when everyone comes and says, hey, give us our deposits right now. There's not very many places where just a handful of people can cause a run on the bank so bad that the bank fails. Where in Silicon Valley, because they were working with a lot of venture capitalists who like have their venture capital there, but also their investments in their businesses, the startups that they're invested in, and then those founders have their mortgages and their personal deposits, all in this very niche bank. A handful of people were able to cause a run on the bank that caused it to fail. Not a dissimilar situation with Signature Bank, which also failed and got taken over by the FDIC, and then also First Republic. These are all banks that are heavily involved in the tech sector, in loaning money and holding money from tech businesses. So I think that this was it. I wasn't even worrying about it until people started asking me. I was like, I guess it could be a cause for concern. But since then, everyone I've talked to, like, their issues have been resolved. Silicon Valley Bank is no more. It's being bought. And so is Signature Bank. First Republic got a bailout from other banks because other banks were saying, like, hey, we don't want to see this fail. We don't want the government to have to get involved. We're going to put our own deposits at First Republic so that they can maintain the cash on hand to liabilities ratio that they need in order to be classified as solvent. Could this spread to other banks? Possibly. Again, this is out of my area of expertise, but from what I'm seeing, it seems like a very sector specific, region specific issue. And even if your bank fails, you are insured up to $250,000. And when the FDIC took over Silicon Valley Bank, they said all deposits we're covering, even if it's more than 250 grand. So if you're a person, very few of our clients would have $250,000 or more, especially in cash, especially at one bank. You're fine. Like, you might lose, in a situation like what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, you might lose access to it for a couple days, but your money's not gone. It would have to be a pretty giant disaster for our money at a bank in America to just be gone. Like, we would have much bigger problems than that. So individuals with money at bank, I don't see any reason to panic about it. I'm not moving any of our banking. We don't bank at Silicon Valley Bank, but we have stuff at Wells Fargo and various credit unions, various fintech startups for our 401ks and for running our payroll and stuff. And I'm not worried about it. So, if you bank where you're comfortable. In fact, that is the thing. When outside of these circumstances, when we're asking people to, um, open new bank accounts and people ask, where should I bank? I lead with convenience first. I where we are a B Corp, we are a co-op. I believe in Principle Six, cooperation among cooperatives, and have some money and loans at credit unions. But I first lead with like what is important to you, not what is the like ideal bank, because people are busy. Like we need to make, and financial stuff is intimidating on its own already. So making it as easy as possible for you. So often I'll ask people like just, pick a bank that is on the right hand side of the road as you're driving to or from work so that you can make it easy to stop off. If there was like one go-to bank that like met all of my like socially responsible convenience and interest rates criteria, I would, recommend it in a heartbeat. But I don't know of any one place that fits the bill for everything, and that's because there's, different banking situations for different needs. A lot of business banking is just much easier to do at one of the larger banks because they're just set up for it. Smaller regional banks and credit unions might not even have options for real business banking. So going somewhere where the fees are nothing or easily to meet the criteria to get your fees waived is really important. I think all for checking and savings accounts should be free. Um, and so picking a place that's convenient. When you're looking for a good interest rate, is so if you have money saved up for your emergency fund, for instance, or are saving up for a car or a house down payment, we often look for what's the best interest rate at a convenient place that we can get. Credit unions are wonderful, but they don't usually offer really good interest rates because they have other priorities for their money than giving interest rates, because interest rates are used to lure deposits in. And that's just not the prerogative of credit union. Credit unions are there to serve their members, not to serve an external, kind of marketing angle. So when we're looking for people to save, we're like, well, let's go find the best place to park your money until you need it so that you can be getting the best interest rate. The time where we do go to credit unions first is loans. So credit unions, like I said, exist to serve their membership. They are a type of co-op. A lot of times they don't realize that, but they are a type of co-op and they are owned by their members and are there to serve their members. So rather than charging high interest rates and then passing that on as a high interest rate in a savings account, they charge lower interest rates on their loan products. So if you're taking out a personal loan, an auto loan, sometimes mortgages, the best place where you're going to get the best interest rate is at a credit union, because they don't have to make extra profit that they then pass along to either their investors or to external customers, because if you are a credit union, you own the credit union. They're passing off the value by giving you good products. So a lot of times we'll have people do their checking or their loans at credit unions, savings at private banks that have good interest rates, business stuff largely at some of the bigger institutions. But it's really based on your personal needs. A lot of times we're looking at convenience, at technology, at industry specific banking. There's a lot, like if you're in agriculture, it behooves you to work with an agriculture bank that understands, uh, you know, how to bank for people who are dealing with land or agricultural products or livestock. And there's a reason, like that Silicon Valley Bank existed to serve the specific needs of a tech ecosystem. So it's a really, really personal decision, and there is no one bank that is best for everybody. So when people ask us, we look at like what are your needs and what's important to you. So if you're feeling comfortable with your bank, I don't see any reason to move your bank. The one thing is when we do ask people to move money to a different bank is if you feel like you need to hide some money from yourself. So oftentimes we'll ask people to move their emergency funds to another institution so that they can't, so that they're not just one click away from using their emergency fund on a night out or something. But otherwise, it's really just based on what you need and what kind of products you need, whether it's checking, savings, credit, loans, business stuff. And if you're a client, we're always happy to help with that. If you just have questions, please reach out. I'm going to look at the comments real quick, see if anyone dropped in. I'm not seeing anything that needs answering right now. So yeah, don't panic. Take a deep breath and think about what's important to you and what you need. And we're always here and happy to help. Again, Lewis, Lewis. You can reach me at lewis@moneypositive.com, info@moneypositive.com, or just go to moneypositive.com and you can get all of our information. Please let me know if there's any other topics. I don't mind weighing in on the topic of the day, but it's just not usually my prerogative. But happy to share my thoughts. Thanks to everyone who asked for me to talk on this topic today. So please reach out if you have any ideas or want help yourself. Thanks a lot. Stay money positive.